We're still on what's happening with Ruggedman, and this particular episode, I'm talking to people who have had encounters with the police.
My name is Lanre Adediwura. As you all know, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a broadcaster, and a law-abiding citizen of this country. I was going by my daily business this morning, and only for the police, Nigerian police, to accostom me. Look at what they did to me. Look at what they did to a pregnant woman. Where is that woman? All because of bribe. Look at what they did to her.
Because of my
Look at what they did.
money.
Look at what she did. Look at that. She enjoyed a pregnant woman. Nigerian police brutalized me, and I want justice. They broke my windscreen. Look at this. My windscreen broken. Nigerians, come to my aid. Ruggedman, you told me to be a law-abiding citizen. You're an ambassador. I'm calling on everybody this morning. If I don't get justice, then the industry is fucked. Yes.
Just introduce yourself. Just let the people know who you are, what you do.
Okay,
From
so
you.
My name is Lanre Adediwura. I'm a filmmaker, actor. I prefer to call myself a thespian because I do almost every work of art. But majorly, I'm an actor, filmmaker. So that's what I do.
Tell me your story. Tell me what happened.
Okay, so it feels good to be talking about this after a year. I'd directed a movie in Ondo and was back in Lagos. I just had to cut my hair, do some other things, preparing for another production. So on that fateful morning in April 2019. Yes, 2019. I was driving to a rehearsal. I had 50,000 naira for welfare in my car. So I ran into an old friend whom we saw last when I was planning my wedding. His name is Otumba. He was my university mate. So I saw him at a popular bus stop in my area, and I pulled over. Buses pull over. They actually park there to pick passengers and all. So they were on the culvert. So I pulled over. I was like, Otumba, how far? Where are you going? I said, I'm going to Ogba. So he said, please, can you help my pregnant friend to Yanokpaja, which was my route? So I said, no problem. So she came into the car. I was negotiating back into the moving traffic when a tricycle blocked me. Yes. And 4 officers came out. They were like, park. I was like, okay, can I just reverse because I was already hitting the moving traffic. So I said, can I park well at least? He shouted at me. I said, make you park. I know. So I parked the car. The ignition was quite still on. So I went out. And I was like, officer, you stopped me. What is the issue? Before I could say Jack Robinson, the female police officer had gone into my space. And I was like, ma'am, you don't just go into my vehicle without knowing why you stopped me. They said obstruction. I said, where? They said bank. I looked around, there was no bank. The bank was about 2 meters away from me. And I was like, but that's the bank over there. Then she changed it, said obstruction of free flow of traffic. Then I smiled. I said, ma'am.
So it was charged as you go.
So I said, okay, ma'am, you know what? If this is the case, can you just explain to me better so that I won't fall victim next time? So as I was bending to turn off the ignition, she just pinned me to the steering. And it was all a struggle. Like, at that time, I'd attracted attention of people, so they had started recording. So I tried pulling myself away. Then about 3 buttons. I lost about 3 buttons on my shirt. So I went to the officer outside to can you see what your fellow officer had done to me? Although the elbow she took while I was dragging with her had gone to the face of the pregnant woman that was seated right beside me. So she already had a cut on her face. Before I turned back, she had pounced, on that particular pregnant woman, punching her so hard. Thank God we had it covered on camera. So at that time, I picked my phone and I went straight on live video on Instagram. So they were struggling for the phone. I was keeping reasonable distance from them. The crowd already was over 100. So she began to beat the pregnant woman. We had to struggle and help the pregnant woman out of the vehicle. At that time, I could no longer find my 50,000 naira in the pigeonhole. They broke the windscreen and people started shouting on them, Olopa, Ole, and all of that. So they felt so ashamed. They called for, support.
Okay.
Now, these guys came from a particular station where I happen to know the DPO. And the popular phrase, police is your friend. I used to travel with that, believing that I know the DPO.
Yeah.
So when they came, I knew one officer, and I was like, Mr. Lanre, why now? Okay, leave this crowd. Let us go. Gasimo with the come office. People were shouting, don't go with them. I said, no, don't worry. I know him. I know this one. Right there, the woman had started tearing her own uniform by herself. And people were saying in Yoruba, I
saw the video online, yes, and I overheard that.
Thank God somebody mentioned that. So by the time I accepted to go to the station with them. The woman confidently tore her clothes completely. So as we're getting into their compound, the entire story changed. And the story was, now na beat officer, na tier officer uniform. And I was like, Mr.
As in
Shedrack,
meaning that you guys attacked the officer
I was
tore
like,
the officer's
nobody
shirt.
ever touched this officer. She tore the uniform herself. The man was not ready to listen. They started beating the pregnant woman, even right in the station, treating us like criminals already. In fact, where I wrote my statement, it was almost like they were forcing me to write what I did not want to write. They were almost going to slap me while writing my statement, but I held on to my phone, believing that is the only passport I've got to bail myself. So I told them, I said, this is my property. You can't take this from me. I was very, very, actively on my phone because I was on the spur of the moment. I was sending messages out, on Instagram. People would think I was on a movie set. So I was telling them, this is not a movie set. This is reality. At that time, the man was like, the DPO was like, you get money now. I said, make una charge him to court.
The same DPO
you
said was your
understand?
friend.
It was like another person entirely. So I called my lawyer and they charged us to Ejigbo Magistrate Court. Right there, we pleaded not guilty. They granted us bail to get 2 sureties each, and they said my car be impounded. Before the sureties could show up, they said they were closing the court. Okay, take us back to the station. We realized they faced Kirikiri. I had to ask the other officer, I said, aren't you taking us to the station? The guy was like, Oga, shut up, you two talk. Now Kirikiri with the car and I go so.
Just like that.
I was like, within 2 hours, charging us to court. Now Kirikiri.
Yeah, but
made another video.
Hold on. Even if they charge you to court.
Yes.
So is it the policemen that get to determine you going to Kirikiri, or the judge that's supposed to send you to
the
Kirikiri?
judge was like, keep them in your custody until they get 2 sureties each.
Were they officers from Kirikiri?
They were officers from that Alagolo police station.
I just wanted to be sure.
Right. So at that time, I made another video telling people, you see, the story is changing, until I showed the face of the pregnant woman handcuffed. That was when they took this story seriously. And at that time, I had already had the president of my association, Mr. Latin, already communicating and all of this. I remembered mentioning you in the video because you had dropped a cover.
Ruggedman, you told me to be a law-abiding citizen.
Prior to that time, and I was commenting like, okay, this is the end of this cover. You understand?
Yeah.
I don't want to mention the title because it's you understand? So
FU challenge.
Yes, FU challenge. So and I was like, the same thing that happened in that video, based on your lyrics, was happening to me. So I had to mention your name in the video. I was like, Ruggedman.
I was going to ask you why you were shouting my name like that.
At a point, when you're tensed, different things just keep coming. I just feel that was God helping out to make the whole thing go viral. You understand? Because if it didn't go viral, maybe by now we'll be talking about celebrating Lanre in Kirikiri. Do you understand? So in a way, it was just God, working at that time, because I had no idea where the confidence came from, recording the video straight to live and all. So at that time, we were already at Kirikiri when the news went viral. Instablog had beat it. You had left Lagos straight for Abuja.
Contacted Segalink and everything.
But life in the prison was another thing. I think what God needed me to realize was how, dead the system is in Nigeria. The prison is supposed to be a rehabilitation center, but I'm sorry, it's a dead zone where more criminals are breeded. Some persons whose lives were better before they got into Kirikiri got it tougher.
Will not come out the same.
in Kirikiri. It was really crazy.
So I remember you mentioned there was a name changing thing you mentioned.
Yes.
I need you to shed more light on that.
Trust me, I didn't know that was the order of the day, that it was like a norm for them.
Which is what?
They change age. I met a guy in Kirikiri whose real age was 16. He was supposed to be in juvenile prison.
Okay.
They changed his age to 18, so he will be in Kirikiri.
Did he tell you why? Did he know?
He said he doesn't really know. Now, my own friend, whom we were charged together, his name is Awoshoro. They changed his name to Nwoshoro. Now, when we got to the prison, they had to do immediate christening for him and told him, see, you better start bearing Nwoshoro. If you stick to your name, Awoshoro, you won't get out of here, because that's the name that brought you in, and that will be the name that will take you out.
But my question is, when I read that, I now thought to myself, now what if he's kept in there and his family members come to look for him.
Now, that is the case.
How will they know his name had been changed?
There are 1,001 persons that are in the prison today whose parents have given up on them because they have changed their names in the prison.
So they can't find them.
Now, they cannot bring all inmates out to start showing one after the other that, is this your son, is this your daughter, or that.
You just have to check the register.
So once they check the register and they don't find that name you're searching for, they just tell you the person is not here. So you assume the person is dead. Because there was a case like that the deputy controller, because I later met with the deputy controller, very great man, nice man. He saw the news online and came back. It was on course. He had to come back and said, there's one Lanre Adediwura that was brought here. He summoned me to his office. He was like, man, that was very brave of you. Ours is to remand people.
Abi?
Whichever the case. But I can tell you that, there are 1,001 persons who has got the same issues with you, but they are still here because they have no evidence.
But my question is, when you were remanded, when you got to Kirikiri, what documents did the police show them in Kirikiri to make them accept you and put you in there?
There was an argument. Where we were seated, they were not going to accept us in Kirikiri. They kept going back and forth.
That means somebody seriously wanted you in Kirikiri.
Exactly. Because they were going back and forth. I remember after the officer that left, they had to run after them to call them that, no. These guys are not supposed to be here. You understand? Perhaps they told them maybe their cells are filled up or whatsoever. Somehow they had their way around it. I knew something. So at a point, while I was complaining, the other guys, the prison warders, were feeling I was getting too agitated. They were like, "Oh, guys, shut up. Let's get to the root of this whole thing."
Okay.
So I had to let them. Before I knew it, we became Alejo. Because Alejo is the newcomer. Once you're a newcomer, the inmates that are babas there, they will call you Alejo.
Yeah, because what I kept thinking to myself and saying I will ask you, or if I ever find anybody that like the prison controller, I want to ask, if the police bring somebody that you're supposed to remand in Kirikiri and they're supposed to come with a document.
They're supposed to come with a document.
Yes.
A document,
from the
having
court.
the court's, signature on it.
Was this available?
No. What we had was our case file. And on the case file, we were charged for some certain things and granted bail.
Exactly.
Case adjourned to a particular period. Now, for that period of time, if we got our bail, we were granted bail. That's the first point. So meaning if we got our shorties, we will be bailed. And on the day it was adjourned, we're going to appear in court, not to be in Kirikiri.
So obviously, one of those police officers
Somebody wanted us
you.
there.
It was, to me now, that's another example of some police officers getting all sentimental and getting their egos bruised, doing that, I must teach you a lesson.
I remember my lawyer saying the DPO later contacted her. I was like, why would your client put video on Instagram now? I was like, okay, why are you asking me? Is that your business? When I was begging you here, did you listen? So it was then, by the time he started getting the radio and all of those things, that was when he realized he had actually toyed with the wrong person. I mean, there are 1,001 persons who do not know Ruggedman or know any other person or know Segalings that would suffer. This same DPO had sent 3 young guys from the same environ, to Kirikiri. Those I met in Kirikiri.
What police station is this?
That was Ipaja Division, Ipaja Police Station, Alagolo. But the sweetness of this whole story was how the police commissioner came into the whole thing. Because I wasn't going to give up on the case. I had Sega links already trying to petition and all of those things. Kudos to him. But they were smart to have actually brought in a new DPO to that division. Abani
Yeah, but that should not change.
Now, I wouldn't know if the other officer, the other DPO and his SO were, demoted or, dismissed or whatsoever. Okay. But I knew there was a change of, leadership in that station, including the SO, a new SO. And this woman had to approach it, in such a subtle way, like my mom.
The way they were supposed to have done in the first place.
And the woman in her statement was like, this case shouldn't have got to
court,
that level.
Talk less of.
It's a case that should have been settled. Why should Shadrach do this? So knowing that she had accepted it, and the other woman involved had confessed in the presence of this new DPO that we actually did nothing that day. We did not touch her that day. She was even claiming to be a committed Christian.
Oh, so the female officer who tore her own uniform actually confessed that
yes,
you didn't do anything.
We didn't do anything. In fact, the guy who led the other squad to support them, Aminu, was like, Oga, this man not do anything actually. But you know the way Oga be now. We gas.
Who's the Oga? The DPO?
The former one.
Oh, okay.
He said, you know the way he be now. We got side for him back. I was like, these are the things we are talking about. Okay, so someone is innocent. You could not tell it. If I had no video to prove, that's how they would have ruined the entire career of a young man who has just started, his career.
God forbid. So how did it end?
How it ended, I remembered having to call Segalings. Segalings was very, very, tough with them, especially having to go pick my car from their custody. He was like, please, I have spoken with the commissioner. They should release that car, this, that, and that. They were trying to go all friendly on him and all of those things, but he wasn't ready for friendship. It was just like, just let my clients go and all. So by the time they pleaded that I should sign an undertaking that I will not press charges against the police force.
Did you sign that?
I had to tell them too, give me an MOU that you will not dig into this case in future, because I know how corny you guys can be. So I confided in Segalings, and Segalings was like, Lanre, is that what you want? But really, the stress of having to charge, go to, this and that, my wife was already scared. Someone who was already shot by stray bullets before.
Your wife?
Yes.
Wow.
So she was really scared of what may come after it, coming after my life because I'm charging them and some other things. So I just had to hands off. Like, I love my career, I love my life, I love my family. So it's better I stay low than having to push for a case that I may never see the end of it. So Segalings was like, is that what you want, Lanre? I said, that's what I want. Let this whole thing just go. I've got a career to build. So that was how everything ended. And thereafter, I'd had sweeter relationship with the police, especially that division. We had the community, policing summit. I was one of the committee members. We organized it. The commissioner of police was there. Segalings was one of the speakers for the day. DSP Bala was present at that meeting. It was all rosy. And since then, I've had better approach on the police. We are all tensed, as a matter of fact, but be smart with your smartphone. That's why it is called smartphone. You cannot be using a smartphone and you're going dull on it. That is the only thing you've got. We have no body camera.
But it's just unfortunate that some of these officers break the law. In their own minds, they're trying to uphold the law. Yeah. And then you saying, yeah, I understand you have a career, you have a life and everything. But don't you think that you not following up on it by suing, don't you think that will just give them the idea that the next person will also be afraid and then they can do it again? Don't you think?
Okay, so I asked myself the question, how many legal practitioners are ready for pro bono cases in Nigeria? I know how much I had to pay my lawyer for 4 of us who were involved in the case, despite knowing that we were wrongfully arrested. That should bring about emotion, that should bring about pity. But this person was concerned about business. So I began to ask, if Segalings was not there, who else would be ready to take on this case? So it's not a palatable system for anyone to want to run after a case. I mean, that's why a Segalings is always up and doing. See, there was a statement he made to me. He said, Lanre, it's not about money, it's about saving humanity. You understand? Now, but how many persons can have that kind of thought, that kind of, orientation, that kind of approach to life? So the stress is high on its own. And there are 1,001 cases on his table each day. Lanre's own will not be the highest of it. We have Kolade's case.
Kolade Johnson's
you understand?
case.
I mean, which is more painful than mine. I'm a survivor. I was not shot. But this man was killed. So if you realize that, they will prioritize that case more than they would have prioritized mine. So the stress involved, because I'm just starting my career. I was filming that period while we were on bail, but I wasn't concentrating. I watched the productions I had that period. I knew something was wrong with me, technically. Okay. And I wasn't going to do that for the next 1 year. I've got a son to feed. I've got a wife to manage. I'm using the word manage because you manage a woman with their excesses, you understand? You manage their funds, their spendings and all. So I've got all of this. I've got a family to attend to. So I won't spend my whole life, my whole period, my whole time looking back at a case and all of that. So it's not because I'm asking any other person to be afraid, but if you've got the resources, if you have the support, Why not go all the way? But the truth of the matter is Nigerians are hypocrites. Some Nigerians, maybe I should put it that way. The same set of guys will support you on social media. When you put your legs in the deep ocean and you want to approach that case and fight it, they will turn their back at you and begin to say all sorts. I remember going through some comments on Instablog, and you'll be surprised how criminally, inclined, let me use that word, some Nigerians are saying this one is looking for cheap fame, this one is this one is that. Put yourself in the shoes of that person. I was looking for cheap fame, and I went to Kirikiri to spend a night. The VIP space given to us was not VIP in any way.
Oh wait, there's VIP?
I don't want to go there, Ruggedman.
We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that some other time. But let me say this to round up. What lessons did you learn from this, and what would you say to people out there right now?
Okay, so there are lessons to be learned, because I remember leaving my home that morning with the hope of, going after the daily bread. If I was ever told that I will end up that day in Kirikiri, spend the night in Kirikiri, I would deny it. I would reject it. So it's just to tell me that in anything you do in life, the next step may never be favorable to you. So always live your life like it's the last step you're going to take.
Okay.
So that taught me a lot. I mean, I could have gone with that incident. That incident could have ended my life. But surviving it means I should take life so easy. Now, I've also learned how to use my smartphone better. It is my smartphone. It is my only passport, because that really helped me. I've also learned how to speak out. Don't speak out in cases when you cannot be right. You cannot stand on your right. Speak out in cases when people can say, yes, he's right about it. I mean, there are 1,001 persons that they have taken away of a sin. They can't even speak out. They will just, go gently into the bus. Some of them are ritual killers. They are not police officers. They have just gone to pick uniforms from somewhere. Once they write police there, you feel they are police. I've got a friend robbed of his belongings, all in the name of stop and search. So there are 1,000. As a matter of fact, just be smart. Be conscious of your environment. I'm more security conscious these days. Okay. Because that really taught me a lot. And again, I've been careful how I relate with police. Because understanding that they were agitated. Some persons may have been provoked somewhere, and some persons, like Yorubas will say, ekpelunja. Meaning, na cause they worry them. So, if you are not careful, they will use you as a lab rat.
They'll take it out on you.
They will take it out on you. So just be careful. Approach them the way you would like to be approached. If they stop you, stop. Just the same way I did. I mean, if I had gone aggressive from parking and all of those things, I won't have the space to use my phone.
Now look at it this way. They asked you to stop, you stopped.
I did.
And you still ended up in Kirikiri that night.
Well, at the end of the day, it was not a scene where it will result to mourning. I mean, if I went aggressive, like some other persons would do, they would have been trigger, happy. But in the way I approached it, they knew this must be a learned person. I mean, the way I was communicating with the woman, I was like, that's the bank 2 meters away. A police officer cannot speak pidgin with me, and I'll reply in pidgin, because that's the only way I can show you that I've got my right, I know my right, and I'm learned. But the moment we start exchanging, conversations in pidgin, there's a way they look at you like, okay, this one now I won't fear handler. You understand? Because they feel every young guy who is good looking is a Yahoo boy, is a fraudster. But that's not the case. So if at my age I cannot own a car to myself, then the system is bad.
Look at it this way. Some of them probably look at it that them at their own age, they don't own cars.
Well, should that
so
be
that's why
fault?
seeing a younger person owning a car, they will see it.
I've seen a younger person who is using a bigger phone than mine.
That's you. That's you. I've seen a video where a police officer was saying how you get this kind of phone.
Yeah, I saw that video.
Okay, now how can you afford this type of phone when somebody like myself cannot even afford it? Well, anyways, we thank God it ended the way it ended. Like you said, not in mourning, God forbid. I would just say this, that I will still say the same thing I say every time. We're all human beings. We all need to respect each other, respect our, separate, different offices. Respect the human being. Whatever you do, always put a human side to it, because you're human. When you respect me, I will respect you, and everything will move. And we should learn to follow due process and do the right thing. Thank you very much, Lanre, for coming on.
Thank
What's
you so much
happening
for
with
having me.
Ruggedman. And I hope this and so many other stories we will get to tell on this show
Certainly
will move.
And
not just us.
I must say too, keep doing what you do.
Thank
now,
you.
You don't expect everyone to be on the same page with you. You might be a faster reader than they are. Just write a summary and make them see the difference, and that's what you're doing. Right. So a whole lot of persons will, throw tantrums at you, at what you do. But trust me, if this generation does not appreciate what you do, the next generations will speak about you. Because you're a hero, a living hero for us.
Thank you.
Trust me.